In this tutorial, I will show you step by step how to create a realistic snow effect using CC Particle World, one of the effects in After Effects. We will also make this effect a preset so that you can use it later. This way, you will be able to quickly and easily apply this effect to your projects without having to redo it. I create a new composition by clicking on the New Composition button. It can be 10 seconds, 1920 by 1080. Let's make the background black and click OK. Immediately, we need to create a new solid layer. Let's create a white solid layer using the Ctrl+Y key combination and call it Snow. To make the snow effect in After Effects, we need to use the CC Particle World effect in the Effects and Presets panel. If you don't see the Effects and Presets panel, make sure the Effects and Presets option under Windows is checked. Here I type CC Particle World and drag this effect onto the layer. You will need to change some settings in the Effects control panel. The original effect is like this, and we are going to change this effect and turn it into a snow effect by changing some values. First of all, let's remove the lines and grids on the scene. Open Grid and Guides and remove all these values. Thus, only the particles that we will give the snow effect will be on the scene. And of course, the background of this effect will not be black. It will be transparent. We can confirm this as follows. When I activate the transparent feature here, look, we can see that the backs of the particles are actually transparent, not black. Since we are going to do the snow effect through the particles, what we are going to need specifically is to change the particle effect values. Instead of particle type, I'm going to change the other one, which is currently line, to faded sphere. And then I'm going to change the colors to white because the snow color is white. Look, you can actually do very beautiful things with the particle effect. We are trying to make a snow effect using this beauty. I have made both colors white. Let's change the values here. I changed the dot size value to 0.5 and I changed the size variation and opacity values to 65. These particles are coming from a single center. As you can see, we need to make it a little bit wider and extend it upwards. I close the particle part, open the producer part and change the radius part. Reduce X and reduce Y values to 1.5. See, it has expanded on the X-axis and now we will change it on the Z-axis. That is, on the up and down axis, and we have such an animation. Let's also make this change on the Z-axis so that we can add a little more dimension to this snow effect. I'm going to set the radius Z value to 4. And this is the snow effect that appears now. Birth rate can be translated as the density ratio of snowflakes. Look, as we increase it, we will see more snowflakes. This can stay at 2 right now, and longevity is how many seconds each of these snowflakes will appear. In 1 second, look, over time, they disappeared in 1 second. Let's change it to 4. So the snow will disappear from the video before the snowflakes disappear. Now we can move on to the physics section. There are many options among the animation options. Right now, we see a snow effect coming from the center, but what we need to change here is the twirly option. When we change this, we can see that the snow is letting the wind blow a little more. It feels like it's going down in a twirl. I changed the velocity value from 1 to 0.1 and I changed the resistance value to 0.5. We have actually created the snow effect somehow and we will need to save it as a preset in order not to recreate this snow effect in later projects. In order to save it as a preset, we need to add the parts where we can change the values that are important in the snow effect to a slider. So again, I search for a slider in the Effects and Presets panel and drag this slider to the layer, the snow layer. Slider control is here. We are going to add a couple of sliders and link some important values to these slider controls. So the changes we will make on this slider will also change the snow animation. We have just talked about the birth rate. The first thing we will do is to integrate the slider into this birth rate. I click on the slider control effect and press enter on the keyboard. I type amount here. We need to search for birth rate. I type birth rate in the search field and you will see it here. And if I click on this icon next to this birth rate and drag it onto the slider, the changes I make on the slider will determine the birth rate. For example, I will make it 1. I will make it 2. The more I change the value, the more the birth rate increases. If you are thinking of a heavy snow, you can change it like this. Let's make it 2. But since we are going to set it as a preset, the default slider value here is a value between 0 and 100. So we can also make it 100. But this will not be very accurate. We may want to leave it at 20 for example. We may want it set this range. So we can right click on the slider and select edit value to set the range. Of course you can change the value again, but you cannot move the slider higher than the value you set. It is possible to make such a restriction. When you set this, you already tell the user that it should be between 0 and 20. Let's add a new slider control field and let's call it speed. We gave the value 0.5. So we can give this slider a value between 0 and 1. And again, I'm dragging the icon here over the slider. See, you need to change the value here because this comes to 0. And then, when we set this as a preset, we will increase it up to 1. When it is 1, it will be fast. When we set the speed to 0, there is going to be a problem. So, the snowflakes will not reach the ground. So, we can see the importance of range here. We need to make it so that it starts from 0.1 if the user or you set it to the lowest value. Instead of flying in the air, they will fall towards the ground due to gravity. Let's create a new slider here. I call this one depth. The effect equivalent of depth is reduce Z. So I click on the icon of Z and drag it here. We made this one 4. Again, we can give it a value between 0 and 8. And this is the depth between the snowflakes in the scene. See, as the depth decreases, the snowflakes are a little bit closer together. But as we increase the depth, we can see both big snowflakes and small snowflakes. After placing these effects here, you can also place the values you want to change here as a slider. There will be one more thing I want to add. If you pay attention here, the snowflakes are falling directly downwards. But it may be a windy weather. They may need to fall slightly to the right or left. In such cases, we may need to edit the gravity vector section under physics, under particle world. But as you can see here, no keyframes are given. So, we need to apply a different method for these. But to show what to do, for example, I'm making the gravity x value 1, there is the rightward orientation. If I want it to be to the left, I will change it to -1. This will be in the leftward orientation. Right now, the snowflakes are going down a bit steadily. This is because we left the speed value at low. Let's center this a little bit again. Now we will be able to see the snowflakes to the left faster and more clearly. In order to do this, we will apply a method like this. CC particle world was the first effect we added. I'm going to rename it to right and I want the snowflakes to be directed to the right. So I'm setting gravity x to 1 and they are now oriented to the right. I'm duplicating this effect with Ctrl D and rename it to center. I'm duplicating it again and rename it to left. And let's make the corresponding edits. In gravity vector center, I make it 0. In left, I make it -1. Let's not forget these edits. I immediately go to the effects panel and I type checkbox here and drag the checkbox. I'm creating 2 of these. I copy them immediately and let's change their names. I change them to right, center and left. I type effect opacity in the search field and the effect opacity parts of right, center and left values appear. The logic will be this. We will make the opacity value of the direction we want to appear 100. If we don't want it to be visible, we will make it 0. Therefore, by clicking on the checkboxes here, we will be able to activate in which direction we want it to move. Let's make the connection right away. I drag the icon of right to the checkbox, I drag the icon of center to the checkbox, and drag the icon of left to the checkbox of left. There is a point we need to edit as expression. I open the effect opacity part. Or rather, let's open all of them and we need to add multiply 100 at the end of them. When it is checked, it means multiply it by 100. Therefore, it means that the opacity value will also be 100% if it is checked. Let's check right away. When I check right, look, the one on the right is active and we can see that it is right slanted. Whichever one we leave checked will move in that direction. That's exactly what we wanted anyway. When we create these, you will see new things here. we can move these down. We can move the orientations. Of course, you don't have to set this snow effect as a preset, but if you want a snow effect that you will use in your projects all the time, it will be much more practical to set it as a preset instead of redo these settings every time. You will also see how to set presets not only for the snow effect but also for other projects. Open the arrow of the snow layer and select both effects and transform. Since we are going to save this animation as a preset, I select the Save Animation Preset option under the Animation menu. Look, a window like this will pop up. It already gave me the direct path. The presets you add here will automatically appear in the User Presets folder. Here I type an effect name. I'll call it Snow and click on the Save button. And again, I go to the Effects and Presets panel to see that the effect is available. Look, we are going to use it from this panel. Even the name of the panel is Presets. Since this is an animation presets, I open the Animation Presets category. If you remember, we saved it in User Presets. When I open this one, you will see the effect itself, the effect we just created. Let's see if the effect works correctly. I'm going to delete the snow layer and drag this effect onto the scene. Look, when I drag it for a second, we will see all the properties that we have just been working on. I'm not making any changes. Look, they are going down. If I want it to go to the right, I select right here and all the snow particles are going to the right. And the nice thing about this is that these black areas are not actually black, they are transparent. What does that mean? It means you can put anything in the background. That's all for this video. I hope it was useful. If today's video was useful to you, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel right now. Just click on the subscribe button below this video. Thank you for watching.